On October 23rd at 5:33 p.m. Everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is raised. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Berger, Ms. Conway.
Here.
Mr. Corey.
Here.
Mr. Cronin. Mr. Predis. Here. Mr. Uparino is excused. Ms. Hona here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Putnam will be late. Mayor Carbone, representative. Ms. Ferguson. Here. Ms. Komazewski.
Here.
Mr. Pagola.
Here.
Mr. Petrozelli. Excused. Thank you. Ms. Schulte.
Here.
Ms. Deans.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here. Thank you. So I have the approval of the agenda. It looks all right to me. No one said that they want to add or remove anything, but now would be the time before I hear a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's our agenda. School, community service, and public participation. Is there anybody signed up or online who would like to speak with us?
I do not have anybody online.
Okay. Nope. Okay, so we'll skip along the paragraph unless one last call. Anybody would like to address the board? Okay. And we will pass to the superintendent for recognitions.
Thank you. So we have several people to recognize tonight. We have some people from Torrington Schools. So Kelly, come on up.
Torrington has selected our behavior support team members to recognize tonight. That includes Demi Amati, Monique Hayes, Katie Michaud, and Dina Saba. Dina is our board certified behavior analyst. Demi Amati is a behavior interventionist, and Monique and Katie are both registered behavior technicians. We have a cohesive team. They really work collaboratively. And we also have systems in place to support our staff, not only with students when they have dysregulated behavior, but also with growing their capacity as teachers in how they can manage dysregulated behavior and professionally developing them so that they have the tools and knowledge and skills in order to do that. Yeah. So,
Golden, right here. Rachel is a photographer extraordinaire. And Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, yes, it is.
I'm bringing Mrs. Sullivan.
Oh, all right.
Because she was key in this. We are going to be recognizing a group of students this evening for restarting our school newspaper. So Torrington High School had not had a school newspaper in 9 years, so it had been a little while. Sam Rowe was actually the first to come and speak to me about wanting to get this restarted, and then her and Scott came and set up an official meeting with me. We discussed what would need to happen in order to get the school newspaper back up off the ground, which included starting a new journalism class. Mrs. Sullivan was kind enough to agree to teach the journalism class. And we had a group of 13 students who have come together to get the school newspaper up and running. One of other students is here as well, and we'll recognize Alyssa Amato as well. Some of you might recognize Alyssa from her work on the Portrait Graduate. So the school newspaper is now up and running. I believe in your packet there is a link to the school newspaper. You can go and check it out. School newspaper really is highlighting all of the great things that happen at Torrington High School. There have been some wonderful articles so far about our new building, our undefeated football team, in case anybody didn't know we had an undefeated football team, as well as some other really great highlights from across the school. So if Samara, Scott, and Alyssa could come on up here and receive your certificates.
Sarah and Scott are our editors-in-chief, and Alyssa is our business manager.
Oh.
So you might get an email from her about taking out ads in our paper.
Excellent. I believe there might be a field trip in the packet today.
There is a field trip in the packet as well.
That's related to that.
And we're sorry that more of them could not be
Don't run
here
away,
tonight, there were
Alyssa.
conflicts.
Always for the lot.
Get out of here.
There we go. And you will, of course, be hearing from Scott and Tamara in just a minute, because they are also your board of student teachers for the evening.
That is all I have for recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and congratulations for everybody recognized. Thank you for your excellent service to our school community. Without you, we would be lost. I would like to move right along then to hearing from our student representatives. Peter?
Hi, my name is Scott Spooner.
And my name is Samra Babic, and we will be your student presenters tonight.
At the beginning of October, we celebrated Homecoming Week at Torrington High School. Students and faculty showed their school spirit by dressing up for themed days, accumulating in a live pep rally on Friday. Our cheerleaders delivered an impressive performance and engaged the crowd with a fun hula hoop toss competition for each grade.
In support of breast cancer awareness, THS raised $400 through our Penny Wars, a contest where students voted with pennies to determine which THS administrator would dye their hair pink. Mr. Pierce Saint emerged as the winner and embraced the challenge, sporting his new pink hair at the pep rally. We had our homecoming dance, which featured a Vegas theme and was a hit, and it attracted around 300 students for a night of fun.
In addition, Torrington High School successfully hosted its second annual Harvest Festival, which was a fantastic event that supported various student clubs. A big thank you to everyone who contributed to making Harvest Festival a success.
Our world language teachers attended the CT Cult conference. Ms. Haas presented as the CT Cult Teacher of the Year and gave an acceptance speech for her award. Ms. Rosas Pelosi facilitated a workshop on using art to engage students in meaningful discussions in the target language and enhance their intercultural competence, while Ms. Haas presented on the accountable talk in the world language classroom.
In music news, congratulations to the following THS Orchestra students for being selected to join Connecticut American Strings Teacher Association Honor Orchestra. Johanna Stolf for violin, Zach Lefebvre, sorry if I mispronounced that, violin, Mila Rose for cello, Jasmine Ruiz, again, sorry for mispronouncing that, cello, Leia Fay for bass, and Noah Sedlick for bass. The CTASTA Honor Orchestra was held at the Hart School of Music at the University of Hartford this upcoming Monday.
In JROTC, our cadets participated in a 2-day trip to Camp Net in Niantic. It was an exciting and rewarding experience for all the cadets. Although the weather deterred some of the planned events, the cadets were still able to participate in an orientation to the military, fitness competitions, drill competitions, and a tour of the Army helicopter repair facility. The cadets stayed in the Camp Net Army barracks and were able to experience a taste of being in the military.
In science news, we proudly inducted 36 students into our inaugural Science National Honor Society. The ceremony was a wonderful celebration of students' achievements. The inductees have distinguished themselves both academically and through their volunteer efforts, exemplifying the values of scholarship, leadership, service, and character. Their dedication and hard work will contribute significantly to the success of Science National Honor Society this year. These experiences have not only recognized students' achievements, but also prepare them for the future college and career opportunities. By engaging in leadership roles and community service, these students develop essential skills and will benefit them in their academic and professional journeys. A heartfelt thank you goes for our educators for empowering our students and providing them with opportunities to extend their learning beyond the classroom. Special appreciation to Ms. Norge and Mr. Rubino, the advisors of SNHS, and a big thank you to Ansley Campbell for initiating this chapter at THS.
Lastly, our journalism class is excited to introduce the latest version of the THS student newspaper, the Raider Report. Last spring, students Scott Spooner, Thomas Zupabolitz, and me, Samra Babic, approached Mr. Scott with a proposal to launch a school paper. This initiative continues a rich history at THS, dating back to the late 1880s when our first student news organization, the X-Ray, was established. Although the X-Ray had intermittent publications until the early 1990s, the spirit of student journalism was revived in 2005 when Miss Roche and Miss Sullivan sponsored a group of students to create the Raider Times. This newspaper ran until 2016 with only 1 year of interruption.
The Raider Report is our newest endeavor, transitioning to a web-based format that allows for greater accessibility and engagement. Our journalism students received live web training from snoscites.com, the domain host for the Raider Report, providing them with valuable technical skills that are essential in today's digital landscape.
This project not only showcases the talent and creativity of our students, but helps our students develop critical skills in writing, editing, and digital media. If you're interested in supporting our efforts, please consider using the donate button on our site. Additionally, students will soon be selling advertising space to help fund new features and initiatives for the Raider Report. Stay tuned for more updates as we continue to grow and innovate. Thank you for listening, and that concludes our Torrington High School Board Report.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you, for coming and sharing all the good news with us. As I tell all of our student representatives, you're more than welcome to stay, but you shouldn't feel obligated to do so. I'm sure you're all very busy.
Do you have a quick request? If we could redo the picture, because one of our other student journalists came in a little bit late, so I hope we
Let's
could
do
get
it.
her in the picture too. So
Yes.
if we could have Samra, Scott, Kayla, and Alyssa head back up there to get the picture with one more person in it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all once again, and congratulations on getting our newspaper started up. I have the superintendent teed up next. Anyway, sir.
Wonderful, thank you. On October 5th, my wife and I attended the Harvest Festival. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan, for putting that on. My wallet doesn't thank you, but thank you for putting it on. It actually was a wonderful event. The students who helped run it and the vendors that were there were wonderful, and everyone seemed to enjoy themselves. And my wife and I did. On October 9th, Mrs. Ferguson, Mrs. Komazuski, Mr. Corey, and I attended the Torrington Pre-K Playground ribbon cutting. And that was just a wonderful event to really kick off and acknowledge the hard work of Donna writing grants, and Laura helping her, and really just having a playground with access for all. And we're so excited that our students will have a wonderful place to not only play and interact and have great communication, but really just having fun, and that's what it's all about. It was a wonderful day, so we were happy to be a part of that. Our student athletes, as you heard our high school friends mention, I could not be prouder of our student athletes. It takes a lot to be a student athlete. It's not about the wins and the losses. It's about the hard work, the dedication that goes into it. And as a former coach, and Mr. Cavola as a former coach as well, shares the same. The amount of dedication and time that goes into it, it's not measured by the wins and the losses. And it's great that our football team is undefeated, but all of our student athletes this past fall really showed a tremendous amount of effort. So very, very proud of all of them. We will continue to communicate all of the wonderful things happening within our district, as we have both on Parent Square, our district school page, and our Facebook page, which I know Rachel has done a great job sharing that at our technology meetings, but it's really the place to go to be in the know, if you will. My entire central office team and I have been around and been visible in all the schools, and that's really the highlight of our day. And we continue to do that to really witness the great work taking place in each and every one of our classrooms, and really to get to visit with our students and to see the time and effort that they're putting into their studies. It's always great to go and see our kindergarten friends and kindergarten all the way up to our 12th grade friends. One of our high school reps here tonight, I was joking with her that she didn't share the wonderful project that she did in one of her engineering classes. And she said, no, Mr. Wilson, it was probably better that I didn't. But she actually had a great time, and it was a great time visiting her in the classroom, and they were putting that together. So that is always the highlight of our day, and I know I share that on behalf of the entire central office team. And we get to be out and about, that's the highlight of our day. And that's all I have this evening.
Anybody have anything for the superintendent? Okay, then we'll move right to the human resources report.
Thank you. So you have our current vacancies. You can see we actually made a lot of movement on our vacancies in the last 30 days since we've been together. So non-certified classified positions continue to be a bit of a challenge. You'll see below that we were visible at job fair in Winston and at City Hall this past month. So we're continuing to look for candidates for those positions. Our substitute fill rates are the highlight, I think, because I think the fact that we just shy of that 80% to me is a huge win from where we were last year. You'll recall we were really in the 40s last year, and the fact that we came out of the gate with almost an 80% for this month. And the feedback that I've heard is that the teachers have really felt that it's been better. So we're continuing to work on growing the substitute pool and reducing our absences and pulling all that together so that we can make sure that we're not at 40% anymore. And I think this month has been close, so we'll see where we land, but I think we're still in the mid to high 70s. And our paras continue to be in the 40s, 50s, which is respectable given the para-educator shortage in the state right now. Absences, you'll see the teacher absenteeism was significantly lower than it has been, so that was very exciting to see. And our para-educator absences also was a little bit lower than what it was at this time last year, and I think that's largely attributed to the new attendance incentive that is in those contracts for this year. I think we had huge success this first quarter, and we had a lot of people that got recognized for that, so that was exciting. Our recruitment, as I said, we attended the 2 job fairs for the classified staff. For our retention efforts, we started our office hours this week, so Dakina was at Southwest on Tuesday, and I will be at Forbes tomorrow, and then next week we'll finish up the other 4 schools, visiting them to do office hours, so we're excited to start that again. We know how much the staff really appreciates us being on site to answer any questions about benefits, frontline systems, whatever they have, whether it's payroll questions or anything, we're able to do that for them. We did roll out our new educator and administrator evaluation plan this month, so goal setting has begun in the schools. I think the feedback has been very positive about the streamlined process per the state's guidelines, so that's kind of exciting. And then now that we've passed the October 1st new implementation of our new benefits provider, we're going to be rolling out our November wellness calendar and working on our wellness initiatives for the rest of the year so that we can continue all of those great things. And the flu clinic is tomorrow and Friday for our in-district flu clinic for the staff, and we're excited to partner with a local pharmacy this year. So instead of using a larger national, we went local, and we're very excited to partner with a local pharmacy. So. On the second page, you can see the normal comparatives that I give you as far as ESS to Torrington subs, and the breakdown of the different kinds of absences and our staff turnover, all very similar to where we were last year as far as those breakdowns, other than the fact that our teacher sub was significantly higher. The comparative of the percentage of jobs that was filled is very similar. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions related to all the info in the human resources report? Okay. I certainly am thrilled that the fill rate is going up substantially. You never know when you switch vendors whether it's going to work out, but certainly I'm happy to see that it's getting better. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's the special education reports on this.
Sure, hi. So I once again compared October 1st last year to this year, just to see where we're starting out. This year, we are starting out with quite a few more students in district. Our special ed numbers overall are a little up. And if you look in the rows going across, one of the biggest reasons is pre-K is starting at 20 more children. A primary reason for that is because of the change in the age for kindergarten eligibility. So we have more children staying in our pre-K longer. Our outplacements, though, have really not gone up. What we have seen, though, regarding our outplacements is that we've had less children, they're adults, being placed, choosing to not go in district and to go to other 18 to 22 programs. We are down to only 6 students, and we have 13 in our TTA. So that's exciting to me that they are, appreciating our servicing here and staying home. That has also been seen in the magnets for special ed. This has slowly been decreasing for our special ed kids since 2020. We were at 54 special ed kids at that point, and now starting this year, we're down to 42. So I'm excited about that too. I think some of our parents have chosen to bring our kids back. So very exciting. Let's see, our homelessness specifically for students with disabilities has also dropped. We currently have 18 identified special ed students who are homeless. Last year at this time, we had 31. Our TAG program has nearly doubled. We have 76 students currently identified. So that's exciting. I shared with you our disability breakdown, and the percentages are pretty comparable. The only place that went up is autism. And that's not just Torrington, it's not just Connecticut, it's everywhere. So that when you're looking at the percentages, this is the percentage of students identified as that category out of all of the students in the district. So you can see everything else went down, or maybe there's 1 point either way, but yet autism went up 3%, which kind of is a lot, I think. So we're continually looking at our programming. Okay, and on the next page, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but when we met at SIC, one of the things that we spoke about was testing. And our students undergo an awful lot of testing, and one of the things that they take, and all students have to take except for a very small 1%, have to take the grade level Smarter Balance. And typically, this is a really tough test for our kids. And when the scores are reported out by the state, they're looking at the percentage of students that are at grade level. Well, if we're at grade level, guess what? We're exited from special ed. So it really doesn't make sense that we're putting, all this credence, I guess, into that score. So I mentioned that at SIC, that when we look at progress for special ed, we take a lot of different things into account. So this chart just goes through some of the different assessments. I just wanted to point out a few things for you. Up at the top, that's all the academic pieces. So in some of our specific targeted reading programs, for example, 38 out of 38 students mastered at least 3 levels in the Wilson reading program, and that's specific to kids in special ed. 91% of our students mastered their goals in ELA, which was a much improved percentage from the year prior. And so there are all the different assessments here. You can look at everything. If you have questions, let me know. We also have really been trying to work on the failure rate over the past couple of years, especially at the middle school. And so last year, it felt like we still had a lot of kids that did not pass. However, we went from 40% in 22-23 to 28% last year. So 12% reduction. Still not okay. It's something we still have to be working on, but we are really focused on that to improve more this year. Our chronic absenteeism is also down. For special ed, we went from almost 30% down to 16%. So that's great, but still not okay. We continue to do a lot of different interventions. We have home visits by the social workers that really try to get involved with the family. We've had our BCBAs and RBTs go into homes and try to show parents how to get kids up and get them to school, and incentive programs and contracts and all kinds of things. So we'll continue to do that. What's interesting is if you compare our failures to our chronically absent kids, quite often there is a crossover. So we really want to improve those. And the last thing is the importance of special ed, the parents being involved with their child's education. So we really looked at the number of families that were attending PPT meetings, and I was excited to see that 94% across the district of all of our PPT meetings, and we had almost 1,200 PPT meetings, and 94% were attended by parents or guardians. And also the new CT SEDS portal that we got up and running last year, 2,163 parents went in to visit the site to check on the different things that their students were doing. So that's it.
I'll say that's it, that's a lot, and a lot of it good.
Yeah.
More of our students are coming to school, more of them are coming to school in Torrington. They're performing better, and fewer of them are living without a permanent place to live.
Yeah.
I think that's all very important. Does anyone have any questions or remarks? Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
And just, you probably already caught it, but I want to make sure that the record will reflect that Mr. Patches joined us. Okay, so we have the liaison reports next. I'm not sure if all of them came across via email, but I think they might have. But if anybody who has a liaison report to offer, administrators, Mr. Kisco, for in advance, if you'd like to add anything additional, that would be the time. Okay, great. Thank you. He always is. John's always comes early. Okay, so then our last report is the ELML report.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. I've been presenting to SIC, but SIC asked that I be part of the full board presentation, so happy to be here. I think, can you pull up the pages? So this is in the packet, and there's nothing being shared that's not in the packet. But being an EL teacher from way back, I like having visuals when I speak, so here you have it. The first graph is showing the growth in Torrington Public Schools of our ELs from 2019. And you can see that the past 3 years, there's been a marked increase. And of note is the increase from October to June. So it's not like all of these students just arrive at the beginning of the school year and here they are. They are coming in all year long. So that's significant. The second chart is just to let you know where we are currently. This was as of September 19th. And our elementary schools are all at about 20% EL, and TMS and THS a little bit smaller, but still the numbers of about 150 in each of those schools is a significant number of students. Thank you. Next page. So, question is frequently asked, where are newcomers coming from? They're coming from everywhere, but predominantly from, I would say Ecuador and the Dominican Republic are still our number 1 and 2, and certainly as you are in town and you notice the markets and the restaurants and the bodegas, it's very clear that this is a very vibrant part of our Torrington community right now. Home languages. So this is frequently asked as well. And the first graph is showing all TPS, not just our English learners, that we have 39 in addition to English. 39 languages are home languages of our families. Of that, 83% Spanish speaking, and then you can see the breakdown of the next minority languages. Minority here, Vietnamese, Bengali, Urdu, Albanian, Portuguese, and I say minority here because although it's a very small population of Urdu speaking in Torrington, you know, in the world there's 170 million people, more or less, that speak Urdu. So that's, I think, always of interest. And of our English learners specifically, it's the next graph, we are at 24 different languages. And the reason there's a difference or discrepancy is because some of our students have already met mastery and they're no longer our English learners. And some of our students are completely bilingual or multilingual in their homes and do not require English learner services. And then you can see, again, 88% Spanish speaking with Urdu, Creole Haitian, and Bengali as the next. The last growth, so you know that the last links is the annual assessment of our English learners, and it is a test that assesses the 4 domains of speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and the state of Connecticut reports it out, and growth is measured in terms of literacy skills, scores, and oral scores. And the literacy is the combination of reading and writing, and the oral is the speaking and listening. Our scores are about where the state average is. The growth rate, the second graph there shows Torrington, and we've been up or down a percentage point in the past couple of years from the state average. I would certainly like to get those scores up, certainly in terms of oral, especially since we've been focusing on accountable talk and discourse in the classroom, that we can build our oral skills. But in addition, next slide please, or the next page. In addition to the last links, which is this one-time snapshot, right? What other data do we have that indicates our student success? Well, we've got attendance. We have students that are on the honor roll. We have achievements such as academic awards and National Honor Society, History Day Award winners, involvement in clubs and activities and music and band and theater, and just evidence of connectedness. Are our kids connected in the classroom? You know, so I think all of these are other indicators that are not reflected in that state score. I did want to, and last month, one of our THS athletes was nominated for Player of the Week. Only been in the country a short time, so that's very good. I wanted to mention the chronic absenteeism, if you could bring up, yeah, thank you, both of those. So Torrington has done just a remarkable job, and you know it's been touted and acknowledged statewide what a good job we've been doing in terms of bringing down the chronic absentee rate. And so the first chart shows all students. So last year, 16% down from the year before, which was 22, down from the year before that, 23, down from that terrible year before that, which was 35, right? But then when you look at the EL chronic absenteeism, it's even better, 9.7, which is, you know, awfully good. And I attribute this to the LEAP visits. I attribute it to the fact that our new families that are here really want their kids to have an education. That's why many of them have struggled as they have to come here. And so they want their kids in school. So I think all of those are factors. Next section or page or however it works out. Thank you. Recently, I and Jenny Garcia, one of our family liaisons, were part of a statewide Talk Tuesday, kind of a state networking group on working on chronic absenteeism, and we presented on some of the efforts that we've done as a district, particularly for our ML families. So all of the efforts that we do from preschool and daycare connections, bilingual parent focus groups, the Welcome Center, our new evolving finally, hooray, Welcome Center, and just trying to involve our families in what we're doing on a regular basis. The next, I think I shared this with you previously, the ML Parent Bill of Rights was new legislation as of July 2024, and this was sent home to all ML parents in their languages, and the state had thankfully translated it into 38 or something like that languages. And if you go to the website, you can see all of those languages. So if you want to read Urdu or Albanian or Pashto, go at it. And the Bill of Rights is not something new, really, but it captures it, it makes it kind of affirms and confirms the fact that all families have the right to documents in a language they can understand, school notifications in a language they can understand, and to have an interpreter at important school meetings. So that's what that does. And then the next page or next section, sorry, I'm used to slides, so this is, and just to share with all of you that we do a lot in terms of translation services. We have district translators for each site. We have district-wide parent liaisons. Parent Square has helped. We have an outside translation service for those minority languages, those other 30-something languages that we need to communicate with parents on. And our district employees, we are building our cadre of district employees who speak more than one language. Our department goals, these are ongoing. These are goals that I took on when I first took this position 3 years ago, and I would like to say I've met all of them and ready for 5 new ones, but I can't say that, so here they are again. But this is what we're working on, to improve the instruction of the EL classes and with the EL teachers, to build the knowledge and capacity of all teachers. And at this point, I really want to acknowledge and thank the efforts of every classroom and content teacher who is striving to meet the needs of the MLs in their classrooms. This also continues to be a focus area for professional learning. We're working on improving services at THS, fostering connections among EL families, again, that is so critical, and to improve the outcomes for students who are MLs and who are also students with IEPs. And it takes a team, and it is everybody in the district working together for the success of these as all of our kids. All of our kids are all of our kids. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your hard work. I think it's especially exciting that our language learners have an even better chronic absenteeism rate than our general student population. I think that says a lot, not only about them, but also about the language learning programs that you've helped us build, that those students want to come to school and they want to be taught. So thank you.
It is a work in progress.
Okay, so next up we have the monthly financials for August and September. As you all see them and they can speak for themselves. I bring in mind that Mr. Petrozelli has been excused for the evening. If you have questions or remarks on them, I think our admin team will do their level best.
Maybe we could go through the budget chair and
Right, yeah.
Michael, just to keep it all in the loop.
So if anybody has anything, okay. Then I would hear a motion, if there is one, to approve the monthly financials for August and September.
So moved, sorry.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so those are approved. And we'll hear the committee reports. School Improvement Committee, take it away, Mr. Castillo.
School Improvement Committee met as scheduled this month, and we had 2 pretty important agenda items. The self-evaluation was one of them, and we will talk about that later. and the test scores, and we will be talking about that fairly soon in this meeting. So that's probably about it for my report at the moment.
Any questions for Mr. Kiska? Okay, I'm gonna start the wrong section. Policy committee,
Filled in for Gary, yes, and there were 2 policies brought forward. They were I'm going through the packet because they're not on the agenda. There were 2 Title IX policies for personnel and students.
Yeah.
Here they are.
Yeah.
And written by our attorneys, Chip and Golden, so we reviewed them with Kim, any questions asked or answered, and we voted to move forward to the full board.
Thank you. Facilities and technology, Mr. Chairman.
Facilities and technology, we met as scheduled. Rachel's did a good job with the websites. I think the majority of them are up and running at this point.
The high school and middle school will be up by the end of this month.
Okay, almost there.
Yeah.
And she reported on the device protection plan and losses with computers that didn't return. She reported on that. She's doing a great job pulling that data together. Dean, as far as facility goes, he is doing a tremendous job with what little funding we have to keep our buildings running. And he is putting together a proposed revised capital plan for this year with wherever we have changing around some priority things, which he will present at some point once we get things finalized. Talked about the retro commissioning that kicked off, I believe, mid-September, end of September, the retro commissioning. That kicked off. I don't know if you want to give us an update on that to see how it's going when we get there. That's pretty much it, just everything Dean's working on, trying to keep things together. How is the retro commissioning going?
It's going good. They've been there a couple of times so far, well, more than a couple, probably 4 times so far. They started off with some meter reading. And now they're just trying to coordinate how to get in there and start replacing some of this equipment. And we came across a few items that weren't working properly that we need to address. And we're going through that process now before we go any further. So I mean, it's going as expected.
Okay. Any questions for either Glenn or Mr. Pergola related to facilities and technologies? Okay. Last up, we have the building committee. Usually I pawn this update up on Gary.
Dean, did you have anything that you wanted to report? I have a little bit, just following the meetings and the agendas and talking to Mario frequently.
As far as on the building committee, no, not enough to,
Yeah, nothing,
if there's any questions, I guess, because I'm involved a little bit, but as far as bringing it to the table,
nothing
everything seems
significant's
to be going,
happening.
everything seems to be going according to plan. Might be, supposed to be probably touch base on that too.
Building committee,
No, I think, it was a smooth meeting. I mean, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think everything is plugging along. I know that they were happy to say that they are right on schedule with everything. The unknowns for us just remain the unknowns of, just the actual moving of all of our students and having the opportunity of them to see it. And Dean has been great. I'm sure he sold himself short. I apologize, but we're just excited. Everyone is looking forward to it. And I think for the most part, as smooth as a new build can go is where we're at. And we will continue to work on it and figure out the one-offs, if you will. But I do think that everyone is really just excited about turning the page and getting into the new building, and really, that's the excitement. We're on track, so that's a good thing.
we had talked about having something in November for the full board to look at.
Yes.
To just review as far as the status of the move overall.
Yes.
What's happening in January, we have something in January presented for the middle school.
Correct. So, come January, we'll have the full rollout plan of what it looks like for all the other impacted buildings, and in November, we'll have a kind of an outline of that, but the full presentation in January on what it looks like for the other buildings and what the plan is. And as this board had mentioned last time, the team has been working on that, so the outline is going to be there for the November meeting and full details for the January meeting on what central office ideas are, and we would love, obviously, the board to hear those again also then, obviously, from the community's input back as well, after we share it back forward.
Anyone have any questions? The one thing I would add related to it is, and I will not have the opportunity to mention this again, is the referendum question that's been placed on the ballot here in the city related to the turf fields. Frankly, I'm not sure that it needed to go to referendum, but it's going. And it sort of solves the challenge of the turf fields if it were to pass, because a lot of the concern was about on any unexpected costs when you dig it up, et cetera, et cetera. Turf is cheaper to maintain, and with the state's investment will be cheaper as well to put in. So we'll save ourselves lots of maintenance money over the lifetime of that turf. So I hope everyone here who's eligible to vote in Torrington will vote to approve that referendum. It would be tremendous to give our student athletes who are performing by all accounts remarkably well, really top of the line outdoor athletics.
And I went to a meeting today on that, and I guess the test results came back favorable as far as subsoils and things of that nature, so.
Good. I hope Gary was relieved to hear it.
He was.
I guess really, yeah. Tough to read them, yeah.
But thank you. Okay, so our next agenda item will be the regular meeting minutes from the September 25th meeting. I will hear first any amendments that members feel need to be made to those, and otherwise I will hear a motion to approve them.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so those minutes are approved. We'll hear motion to receive the subcommittee meeting minutes from, we've got a bunch, facilities and budget on September 11th, policy on the 9th of September, SIC on the 4th of September, and the building committee from the 18th of August. Unless there is an objection, I will hear one motion to receive all of the subcommittee meeting minutes at once.
So moved.
Okay, we'll give the motion to Bill. Change that to a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those are received and dispensed with. We'll hear a motion to receive the consent agenda of appointments, retirements, and resignations.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is received. Now we have new information and action. First up is the state assessment update. That's the binder that's been put in front of me.
That's the beautiful binder you have, yes. Thank you to so many people who helped to get these binders ready for you all. The hope is that this binder will act as a repository. What's in the binder is basically what's in the packet for now. But this binder can also be, you can hang on to this because as the individual schools present at the school improvement committee meetings, we can add tabs and just keep adding to this binder throughout, right? So anytime we have an information sharing of data, this is a place to kind of house it. There are a couple of tabs in there, they're really just germane to tonight. There's a glossary of terms tab, which is the third one. Just so, because sometimes the state likes to confuse us with some of the terminology, so just to keep that straight. And then, full disclosure, I did end up going down a rabbit hole with some of this. So I came across, right, Mr. Putnam? Yes, we were having a back and forth over the weekend about it. So, there are a couple of articles that I came across that I found to be interesting and I thought I would like to share. So hopefully when you have a minute, you can take a look at some of those articles. One of them is written by Thomas Armstrong. I don't know if that name means anything to anybody, but he was kind of the father of multiple intelligences. He was a professor at Harvard for a time, and just an interesting kind of perspective. There's another one from Forbes magazine, kind of, standardized testing is certainly controversial, and so just getting different perspectives from different folks. But if you'll indulge me for just a minute, I'll just go by. Yeah. They heard about our test scores, they're coming to save us. If you don't mind just bearing with me for a second, I stumbled upon some information, and I'm not kidding, I really did go down a rabbit hole, and I thought, this is really fascinating, thank you, Dean. And my guess is that maybe Mr. Kisco, you're aware of some of this, it's his historical information, but if I knew this once upon a time, it was a reminder. So just a little bit of history to provide some context. So in the early 1900s, education in Connecticut was vastly different than it is today. The one-room schoolhouse was the teaching venue. There were 1,110 one-room schoolhouses in Connecticut in 1899. Students rode to school in horse-drawn wagons. Prayer was part of every school day. Reading passages from the Bible was routine practice for teaching kids to read. High schools were very rare. In 1910, only 61 towns in our state had a four-year high school. And as secondary education gained in popularity, most students in rural areas were not able to attend a high school. So the majority attending were from upper middle class. Teachers were licensed in some towns, not in everyone. And there was no teacher preparation that was kind of standardized across the state. In 1920, enter standardized tests, the state created the Bureau of Tests, and that's an example of Connecticut's administration of standardized tests in its infancy. The two tests at that time that were suggested by the Bureau were the National Intelligence Test Scale and something called a term and group test of mental ability. The implementation of school tests was a trend not only in Connecticut at that time, but also throughout the rest of the country during the 20s. I also dug up this fun fact that the SAT dates back to 1926, and it actually evolved from an Army IQ test. As an aside, which is a little bit ironic, I think, it was also in the 1920s that schools began to build playgrounds. So, just saying, the two don't often go hand in hand, right? Fast forward to modern times. We have United States presidents that have launched initiatives that were heavily reliant on standardized testing. You've all heard of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which was part of the War on Poverty, No Child Left Behind, which was back in 2001 with George Bush, Every Student Succeeds Act, which was part of the Obama administration. And then in 1983, the Reagan administration published the report entitled A Nation at Risk, which identified several risks that American society faced. These included loss of global innovative and competitive edge, declining literacy, eroding standards, and a lack of necessary skills to man the workforce. So this kind of shifted the focus to standards and expectations. In 1985, the Connecticut Mastery Test was administered for the first time in our state, and annually thereafter until 2012. Just to back up a little bit, in 2008, the development of the Common Core Standards was underway. Meanwhile, in 2010, the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium was created, and Connecticut joined the consortium. And in 2014, the Smarter Balanced Assessment was first administered in Connecticut. When the consortium initially formed, there were more than 30 member states. In recent years, however, membership has dwindled significantly, and currently only 13 states in the country administer the Smarter Balanced Assessment. You can
tell you who those are: California, Connecticut, Hawaii, Idaho, Maine, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, Washington, and Wyoming. Every other state, with the exception of Nebraska, that does not use any standardized test in their state, has their own test. They're no longer part of this consortium. Okay, I told you about the binder. So that brings us to the information that you had in your packet, which, as Mr. Pisco said, we brought forward to school improvement. And we had kind of a preliminary philosophical conversation about the scores. There's a lot of information here. We didn't really think it was efficient or even possible to go through every single page. So we thought maybe we would just look at some key takeaways and then entertain questions. Jeff, I know you had sent some questions in advance, so you can make that part of the takeaway. Laura and Joanne, if you have anything to add, please jump in at any time. I think we have to be really honest and acknowledge where we are at. So there's a substantial dip. If you look, I intentionally on that first slide, which is in the historical, right at the beginning, there's a spreadsheet that shows a district-wide historical trend that goes back to the last year that the Connecticut Mastery Test was administered. Connecticut Mastery Test was a very different type of test than the ESPA. Very, very different. Our kids, and I know that was a long time ago, it was 10 years ago, it's not just the makeup of the test that accounts for the student performance. We've had lots of other things change, but back then, the test, we were really doing pretty well as a district on the CMTs. We were leading, if not exceeding, the state average performance at that time. Since that time, when the state shifted from CMTs to ESPA, we've seen a substantial dip in our student performance in English language arts as well as in math. We see that COVID definitely had a negative impact nationally as well as here at home. We see that, routinely, our student performance in math is significantly lower than it is in English language arts. We can speculate on why that is. In part, it's due to the intense focus we believe that our district has recently placed on literacy. And thanks to the board, we've focused greater resources in terms of dollars for interventionists and instructional coaches, and we have a beautiful new reading program. Even prior to that, we shifted and we kind of had our own grassroots homegrown approach to moving away from that whole language instructional delivery model to more explicitly teaching kids how to read. I mean, we have to own and acknowledge that we as a district, like much of the rest of the country, jumped on the whole language bandwagon when it came around. And if you were not a child who could largely intuit how to acquire reading skills, it wasn't gonna happen. You all know, I'm preaching to the choir, you all know this. Some of the other things that we've done is we have partnered through Donna Labby largely in her efforts, to get us some grant funding. We've partnered with an agency called Literacy How. All the folks who are members of that agency have been trained through Haskins Laboratory. We work with them, they're in our schools, they're helping to train our teachers how to, the pendulum has swung back, and in many cases, our teacher preparation programs have not really been up to snuff when it's come down to it, right? So we're working with them. So there's a huge focus on literacy. We need to now not shift our focus, but expand our focus to mathematics, and we know that. We are addressing that issue. We are looking, we just met, Michael and I met recently with our
Alliance liaison who helped us to, because he's in districts all over the state, what are other Alliance districts using and what are they doing? And he made some suggestions about looking into some other resources. So we're doing that. We're working with Ed Advance, we're working with a math specialist at Ed Advance who's helping to provide some PD around mathematics. And I mean, this is my own personal bias, but just like we've gone back to basics in literacy, we're shifting back to basics in mathematics. You can't be successful, again, it's my own opinion, if you don't have math fluency and you don't have that automaticity at a very early age, it's gonna bog you down when you get to all that, right? So I think I'm answering some of your questions, Jeff, that you had sent in. He had asked about why the disparity between ELA and math. The other question that Jeff asked, which is one of our key takeaways also, is, historically, routinely, our kids are kind of holding their own through grade 5. We see the growth, we see them kind of, starting to take off and gain some independence, and then they go to middle school and they lose ground. And this is in no way to suggest that the hard work at the middle school is in any way to blame for this. But it's something that we have to look at. And if you look around at districts around the state and around the nation, the middle school model is not necessarily the most popular anymore, right? Districts have moved back to, which we are going to be able to do, bringing our 6th graders back into an elementary school. A lot of towns, Bristol's a really good example. Every time they redistrict or they build a new school, they're going back to a K-8 model because it's a maturity issue. To the credit of our K-5 schools, they're like families. It's like home away from home. You've got 25 children in a class, and for 180 days, you're with that little classroom community. You're with your teacher who loves you. You're with your friends in your class. Not to say that the middle school teachers don't love their kids. Please don't misunderstand. But the middle school teachers might have 125 kids to love, not just 25 at a time. So you're not able really to establish the kind of relationships and that sense of community. And the research is suggesting that really does matter, right? It matters. Anybody who's worked in a school, I think, can attest to that. The other thing is our kids go from this self-contained environment where they feel very supported and, I dare say, coddled, up to where now they're having to deal with perhaps seven different teachers in the course of a day. And that's a lot to manage when you're 11 or 12 or 13, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we make our shift, I think, and how our scores are impacted, because I really do think that we're gonna see an improvement. It's hard for kids to navigate at that age. And I think I probably already said this, but I'm gonna say it out loud. I don't know how to sugarcoat this. Because we're using a whole language approach to teaching reading, what we ended up doing is sending some children up to the middle school who weren't prepared. They didn't have the foundational skills that they needed. So that would explain the struggle when they get there. If you're going to a higher grade, to a secondary level where the demands are more rigorous and sophisticated and you don't have the core foundation that you need, you're gonna start to see the scores drop. Our science scores, again, full disclosure, our science scores they also need attention. And the honest answer to why our science scores are the way they are is because our focus is on reading and math. And at the K to 5 level, I think I can look around at my colleagues here. We don't have a second to dedicate to anything except reading and math. So we've done what the rest of the country has done, and we have embedded or integrated core content, science and social studies, into language arts and math. We just don't have our kids for enough hours a day and enough days in the year to get it all done. So, yeah, true confessions tonight at the board meeting. It's not in your packet, but it did occur to me and to Joanne actually, said, why don't we see if we can dig into the scores, the science scores of the other districts, other alliance districts, to see how we would compare. And I started to do that too late to really develop a slide. But it was interesting because I got halfway through the list of alliance districts and the scores were so low they weren't even reportable in science. Because if the N is too small, they won't report it. So it's not just us, and I know that sounds like a misery loves company moment, but it's just the truth of the way it is. In terms of comparative scores, we're roughly performing in the middle of the pack with respect to other alliance districts, with respect to math and ELA. I think it's worth noting that the districts, alliance districts that are doing really well, and in some cases even outperforming the state as a district, have been in the alliance program since its inception, like 12, 13 years ago. So this is year 7 for us. We just started year 7. Something to really celebrate is our growth. It's very exciting, particularly at 4th and 5th grade. And a shout out to everybody who's working so hard from pre-K all the way up, really, really hammering this explicit phonics instruction, because I believe that is a huge reason that we're finally starting to see some payoff for that. You know, we started like 4 years ago kind of shifting and changing the tide and turning the ship around, and now we're starting to see, right, the benefit in 4th and 5th grade. Right, Mr. Klein? Yes. And you'll hear more about that at school improvement when the principals come and talk about what's happening in their individual schools, because it really is, it's amazing. We're seeing growth numbers come out of 4th and 5th grade that we haven't seen in over a decade. It's really wonderful, really, really wonderful. In terms of growth at those grade levels, we are higher than the state average. And when you look at the state of Connecticut, that's every district. That's the Greenwiches and the Avons and, you know, all of the more affluent towns. And for our kids to be growing at a more rapid rate, that's really something to celebrate. And then as expected, when you look at our subgroups, as Laura started to say, and we talked in more detail at school improvement, it's no surprise that kids without high needs, right, without the special ed, without the EL, without the free and reduced, are gonna perform at a higher rate. I mean, that's why we have those subgroups, right? Because students, that's why we have special ed, because there's an issue that needs to be serviced through special ed. Jeff had asked if we knew what percentage of our Torrington High School graduates are going on to post-secondary. And wasn't able to get it in the packet, but in the back of your binder, there are a couple of little graphs, and you don't have to look at it, but what I can tell you is there's a 6-year trend, so you can see over the past 6 years what percentage of our graduates have gone on to 4- and 2-year colleges. And in this past year, so our June 2024 graduates, 78% of our kids went on to post-secondary school. So that's pretty nice. Kristen, do you have a question about that?
Well, no, I'm just wondering why that's so crucial to know. We have so many children that, you know, would do so much better in a trade school or work better with their hands, or they shouldn't be ignored from this data just because they're not, you know, fit or have the desire to go on to a four-year college doesn't mean they're any less smart.
No, of course not.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but the question was.
So many kids would much prefer to work with their hands than have their nose in a book.
Absolutely, and I'm mother to one of those kids, so I totally understand, but I think Mr. Putnam's question was because the state community colleges started to offer free tuition, so wanted to see if, am I right, is that,
That's the exact source of the question. And unfortunately, the state doesn't have that data available to us yet, but trying to understand your community, I wanted to try and understand what were some of the limitations. Do we see a spike because there were kids who wanted to go to school but didn't have the means to? And you would see that as a very sharp increase in people going on to post-secondary if all of a sudden it's free and we have a lot of people taking this up on it. And it helps us plan for the types of things the pathways are going to provide. We want to cater to the people we have of all kinds in this town, right? And so that's why I asked the question, could we see what was happening? I thank you for the quick turnaround question.
Colleges do offer, I'm sorry to interrupt, colleges do offer some vocational and trade and technical training as well, and while it's probably too granular for us to see how many of our students are specifically in those programs, I would say it's probably in a low single digit, maybe mid single digit number of these people encompassing this graph are going for more hands-on blue collar training, and I don't want to leave them out or discount them.
I believe they're in there too. If they go on to like a King or that, they go on to an official trade. If you want to become a plumber after you left the trade school and move to another program, I believe they're in this for the state data.
Yeah, and I mean, I got that, some of that information came off of EdSite, but the table that's there came right from our guidance folks, so I can go back, and they were able to produce it immediately, so I can certainly go back and tease that out further. And then the other question that Mr. Putnam sent along was if we decided that these scores were nothing but a bunch of hogwash, what indicators might we use to measure our students' growth and readiness for life after Torrington Public Schools? And I had kind of formulated an answer in my head, but then before this meeting, we were sitting in this wonderful meeting with all the other administrators talking about our portrait of the graduate. So I would say the portrait of the graduate competencies: can our students solve problems? Can they take risks? Can they communicate effectively and competently? Can they think critically? Can they collaborate? You know, so all of those wonderful things that you'll be hearing more and more about as we continue to roll out phase 2 of the portrait of the graduate. But also just remembering that this is one test, it's a snapshot, it's a moment in time. Yes, we have to have this kind of data because there's a quote on the front of your binder that says you can't improve what you don't measure. So, you know, we have to obviously consider these measurements, but we also have to understand that they're snapshots, they're moments in time. We have average daily classroom performance and grades over time and our internal district progress monitoring measurements, school attendance, a child's ability to demonstrate understanding in a way that is meaningful to them. You know, multiple alternative ways. Their ability to participate in class and school and participation in extracurricular activities and the extent to which they can belong and contribute in a meaningful way to their community. So that's how we would answer that question. I mean, I don't know, Joanne or Laura, if you have anything, what did I miss?
I think you've touched on it all.
Sorry
I think
to
it's
talk at
been
you
very
so much,
comprehensive.
but
Those were all the things that we talked about.
yeah, any other, if you have questions, we'll try to answer them tonight or certainly can try to get back to you with Kristen.
Mine's a quick question, I think. In what year did we stop changing teachers in 4th and 5th grade for math?
I think we only did we do that for 1 year or 2 years? Just 1 year?
I think it was 2. I think it was,
Do you remember which, it was right through the COVID time.
it was 19 to 20 was the last school year, right?
Torrington tries.
I think so.
Wow.
It was about that.
Well, 19, did we?
You did it in 2021.
First 2 years of sister schools.
18, 19, 19.
Oh, you're right, because we did it when we transitioned.
Yes.
We did it when we redistricted, so.
Yeah.
18, 19, 19, 20, correct. And then that was COVID in March of 20.
I'm
And
wondering
the
if that's
reason-
also a contributing factor.
The reason that we didn't go back to that model is because when we came out of COVID and we brought kids back to school,
Right.
we wanted to
Keep
limit.
cohorts together.
Right.
Right, no, I definitely understand why it wasn't. Is there any talk about possibly bringing that back? 'Cause I felt that prepared the kids a little better for middle school.
Well, I think Mr. Wilson, you wanna address that? We are in conversation about what to do at the intermediate level.
Okay. Yeah.
make it more of an
I almost felt like it was a bit of a shock for the kids going into 6th grade when they didn't have that teacher shift and change classrooms and moving their stuff to one class, you know? I feel like it was a little bit better. Doesn't prepare them to have 8 teachers, but it certainly prepares them to have more than one and
And
get
I-
out of that classroom.
I would agree with you, and I think the benefit of the 4-6 building allows us to do that in a more controlled setting and ease into the transition while keeping that model, but having kind of a uniform model for our 4-5 students and our 6 students experiencing that for when they get into the 7th through 12th grade. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
And I think having that controlled environment just helps with that because you're gonna be, I don't wanna say confined or stagnant for your 4 or 5 years, but you'll have your 6th grade years when you're really going to be your kind of exploring year and really learning how to do it effectively and move and transition and experience different teachers and different personalities and different, as you said.
I just thought it was really beneficial for the kids at that
Exactly.
age.
So I think you're right on where
Okay.
our thought is.
Great, thank you.
You know, it was great for me. We also did it back in, I think, circa 2003. Torrington flirts with the idea of having that age group have multiple teachers every once in a while, and I happened to be one of the beneficiaries of it, and I loathed one of the 2 teachers that I had. So it was great for me to only have to spend half the day with that person. No, but in all seriousness, I do think it was beneficial at a more academic level.
Hopefully they're retired.
Well, I don't identify.
That teacher's gonna be watching this video and they're gonna call you later.
We had 2 of them. They won't know which one.
We did it in the 80s too, actually. I want to date myself and probably Chris.
Yeah, every 20 years or so, you gotta
We did
try
it
it,
in the
right?
80s. Yes, we did.
You know, I think it's worth saying in
I was in this
regard
school in
to
the 80s, I don't remember that, I don't know.
It's worth saying with regard to the sciences and history, social studies, I suppose, subject matter, that I get why we don't have the time to teach them, or we're sharing difficult facts to accept. Nearly 60% of American adults can't read well, and by that I mean they read below a 6th grade level, and just shy of 20 million of them can't read at all. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. My grandfather couldn't read, and he made it okay. It was a different time now. But it's hard to teach students science and social studies when they can't read. But at the same time, I think, and I said this a few years ago when we were talking about pathways as well in our new high school, that students who are interested in what you're trying to teach them will be willing to say, put some effort into their reading skills if it means they can read something they're interested in. And so I hope as we look at adjusting our, sort of everything, right, as we shuffle the students around again, that we can find some room for some of that, less measurable, but perhaps somewhat more engaging for many students, content. Because I think I'm no teacher, but I think it probably would be beneficial to them.
It is, and I'm sorry if I didn't make this clear, but we have shifted to, in fact, one of the reasons that we decided to go with benchmark is because most of the benchmark units are nonfiction. There's a lot of nonfiction, and they align beautifully with science, and we've just recently purchased some supplemental lab type materials, and we're working towards devoting more time. So yes, we know we have to do it, we just have to figure out how to do it in such a way that we can still make sure that we are producing and sending skilled readers onto the next level.
Right.
I think it will be interesting to see as we finish the ramp of benchmark, because we added grade 6 a year after the.
This year's the
This
first
year's
year
the
for
first
grade
year.
6.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the trend, it's too early for a trend, but what the trend will look like. And what does that middle school, high school, the dip work experience look like? Maybe you guys can share with us at some point. We spent that $1 million on the benchmark, and we're seeing hopefully that trend. What are the other things that us as board members need to be looking for to help you guys? What are those next programs or other pieces that we need to find a way to budget for to support all of the teachers and students? This is good growth. We have that problem in math. We have some of the social studies and things. How do we solve that? What do you need from us to help you do it?
Anyone else have anything?
I enjoyed reading the information that you forwarded with the packet. It was very helpful. And the only questions I had were around math, but you addressed those, which I think it was obvious that, we need to look at that with benchmark in place. But
The other thing, which I don't think I mentioned, which is I want everybody to, and I think we talked about this at school improvement, is so much of math is also dependent upon reading and being able to understand what you're being asked to
and what
solve.
you're reading,
Right?
being able to read it.
Exactly,
To begin with, right?
exactly, yeah.
Especially in the standardized tests, because they're mostly word problems.
Yep.
John, did you have a question? Susan,
I have a lot to say, but I'm not going to say most of it. I will say that Mrs. Ferguson did a very good job of presenting the information and explaining the information. Everything she says is true. The test is accurate. It is reporting that our kids can't do or can do what it says that. The problem with this test is it doesn't help you. It doesn't show you where to go. You can't correlate the results with anything that's happening in your programs, and you can't change your own approach to it because the results are just so erratic, and they don't seem to be amenable to any real analysis. A test should have, CMTs, you were talking about CMTs. The CMTs were very good. You got back results in a way that would help you understand what you could do in your curriculum to help kids do better the next time. All you get is a number here, and I'm going to say again what I said at the School Improvement Committee. Getting these bad results year after year, but not in a way that's helpful, it's like that saying about the beatings continuing until morale improves. You can't do anything with this information. I think that probably if people go through this packet, you'll see things that you want to know more about. I'm going to put it as an agenda item on the School Improvement Committee meeting, the 6th of November, I think it is, but our next meeting in November. And for anyone who has any follow-up questions, you don't want to beat this to death. I think there might be some value, though, to giving people a chance after they've had a chance to look at this. For instance, Chairman Corey, you got your report out by ethnic groupings, basically, or other groupings. It was disaggregated. And that might be something we'd want to talk more about. Totally predictable. We could have told you what those orders were going to be of the various groups, but there might be something worth looking at there. And there might be other things to talk about. And also, the idea of the middle school versus the junior high school model is not just grade configuration. It's attitude toward kids, it's attitude toward where you're putting them. Junior high school model was preparing kids for high school. It was very academic. that was seen as being too demanding of children at their emotional stage in life. So we went to a program that does a different thing with kids and their emotions, and I'm not going to prejudice it by giving my own opinion. But, and I think we're seeing that when we talk about what happens when you know, fifth grade, fine, but what happens? But you're talking about changing that. We got rid of social promotion, or at least we took a swipe at it. And that, I think, will make a huge difference in the long run to our test scores. But anyway.
Just take some time.
Pretty much what I have to say now, but more to be said at the School Improvement Committee meeting if we want to. But it'll be on the agenda. And thank you, Mrs. Ferguson, for this presentation. Very good.
I second that.
Yeah, there is major growth here too. I
Oh,
mean, you know,
yeah.
that shouldn't be diminished. And also, I just wanna make a comment, and it's no secret, I don't put a lot of stock in standardized testing scores, I just don't. I don't think it's a reflection of the amazing teachers we have in this district. I
Correct.
don't think it's a reflection of the kids, because some kids are just not good test takers. I mean, there's some really good growth here, I think we should be proud and keep moving forward. We have some of the most amazing teachers in this district that I've ever come across. And our kids are amazing, great families, like we just need to move forward. There's a lot of good information here, a lot of positive information.
Yes, agreed, and you're gonna hear more about it from the individual schools, because that, they can tell the story behind the numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Last call. Thank you. So, I expect everyone will go home and read all of this thoroughly.
Read the articles,
Immediately.
please read the articles.
That one from 1947 is interesting information.
Okay, so we're not taking any action related to this, so we'll go to policy updates. I think just because these are materially related to the same subject, barring any objection from the board, we did discuss this briefly. I would hear a motion to simply adopt policies 4080 and 5170 together, bearing in mind that one applies to personnel and one to students, and otherwise they deal with the same material subject matter. So is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on these? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so those policies are adopted. And we'd love to hear about the field trip to Columbia University proposed for November 4th. Sorry to keep you waiting.
I can speak to it. Aaron had to step out here and get a late. So it's an opportunity for our new school newspaper journalists to head down to Columbia University in order to attend a program in which they will be interacting with the Columbia University School of Journalism. It came to us a little bit late, which is why it's a little bit closer to the deadline than we normally like.
Yeah, I can
So the
own
opportunity
that.
wasn't made available until tonight.
Yeah, thank you, I'm sorry, I was looking over because I thought Erin was here.
Yeah, she just had to step out.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so you met some of the journalism students, and Erin Sullivan became aware of this opportunity just, I don't know, a week ago or something, down at Columbia University. That's why it's come to you so late. Typically, out-of-state field trips come a month ahead of time, but she talked with Brian, and the two of them gave me a call and said, what do you think? You would really like to take the kids to this, because it's a great opportunity of getting the paper up and running again. And I said I was sure that you would be happy to look at it, and even though it's kind of the 11th hour.
That's a great opportunity.
It is a good opportunity.
It says journalism class, how many students?
I think they said 30.
I don't
I
remember.
believe it's 14 students. I think there's one student in the journalism class that's not on school.
Yeah, it's just a small class of kids. It's not.
And then it says, admission, the cost per person is through donations.
So the school newspaper, if you go to it, actually has a place where you can make a donation to the school newspaper, and that's how they raise the funds for it.
Anything else? Okay. Anyone else have any questions related to that? Okay, hearing none, as assuming that I've read the board's attitude on this right, I will hear a motion to approve the Columbia University field trip for November 4th.
So moved.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the field trip is approved.
Thank you.
Very exciting for our students. December meetings, we put this on as an agenda item. Soon I talked about it briefly earlier as well, with the potential for just canceling sort of the general meetings for December because it's such a busy season for everybody and because so many of our folks won't be at work for part of that month, and it's busy. It's nice to give ourselves and our employees a little time away from dealing with us. Other than we would have to have at least a virtual meeting for certain necessary things like approving the monthly financials, et cetera. So we wanted to gauge the board's interest in that. And we would likely also schedule a retreat to cover the self-evaluation. So there'd be one thing that we'd be asking you all to come to, but we think it would be productive. Yeah, a little more enjoyable, but also productive still in a different way than the business we usually transact. Productive for us sort of internally. So does anyone have strong opinions on that? You all are really excited to cancel the summer meetings?
December's just a busy month all around, yeah.
The board owns all of my Wednesdays, so whatever we need to do. I just mark them all out.
Okay. So then we'll almost certainly go ahead and do that. I don't think the board needs to vote on it as long as we've taken your input and we're not doing anything radical that you all don't want.
And that we notify the city because we have to give them our calendar year ahead of time, so.
Right, so
as long
we'll-
as it's noted.
Yeah, we'll notify them of the changes, we'll post them and remove posted meetings, and then when the time comes to do the meeting to do the monthly financials and any other urgent business, we'll of course necessarily post that. And that way as well, we can still make sure that we're transacting the most essential business that we need to for that month.
That comes as a special meeting or just a regular?
The
what-
budget or the?
Honestly, it depends. If our monthly meeting is scheduled on a date that's accessible and convenient for everybody, we would probably just have it then and just have it be virtual or condense the agenda such that it's a shorter. So, and obviously we wouldn't expect everybody from central office to be at that. If it's just a couple of agenda items, sort of pare it down
You
as
get a
much as
real
possible.
break. We appreciate that.
Administrators still have to come.
Just Ken.
Yeah, so unless committees really feel like it would be urgent to.
I'll ask, can I propose a question? Mr. Wilson and Mr. Pergola, with the move coming, is there anything you foresee that may warrant scheduling a meeting for December?
I would say, Mr. Berger, that I think if needed, as we came across, we would definitely reach out to you to request that meeting. I think with the November meeting coming soon, Dean is going to share kind of where he's at with after speaking with ONG and with Mario and Ned as well. And I think we're kind of in line on how we're going to start progressing. So if something came up that was an emergency, I think we would definitely reach out to you after the December meeting, but also having the January meeting earlier in the month prior to our move, that would also be appropriate. Because I think we have it prior to the move for the facility.
So just leave the facility meeting there, cancel it, a little bit closer.
Yeah,
That way,
Or postpone.
As you need to.
That way you don't have to have a special.
it can just be there.
Postpone.
We'll cancel it, we don't need it, or something, we don't need it, we'll cancel it.
Right, and Sue and I don't really have the ability to cancel your subcommittee meetings anyway, so if committee members and chairs desperately want to meet,
By
don't
all
let me shut
means.
you. Okay, so that's taken care of. I'd like, with the board's permission, and I've just asked a general consent for this rather than a vote, to table this letter regarding maintenance. It is not an urgent matter and can be tabled, but.
You got number 5?
Oh, I did. I did forget number 5, which is the board self-evaluation survey and subsequent results. My apologies.
John if John, you would like to kind of run with that and give an overview, you did most of
Yeah,
the
we've
work
already
on it.
done, anything you need to know was at last month's meeting and the school improvement committee meetings where we discussed this, and the email that I got out. The email that I got out explained exactly where we were at that time and what was apt to happen, and solicited further opinions or suggestions from people. And there was just one, Jeff sent something in that I incorporated into a document that I forwarded to board leadership. So at some point, assuming that it's the direction we still want to go in, I will get something out probably later this week, possibly over the weekend, with a questionnaire, essentially a questionnaire, which will consist of how we're doing on our board goals, how we're doing on the issues, basically the organizational issues that Chairman DePritis was talking about, which were also incorporated into the email. And then the suggestions from Mr. Putnam included a couple of items, and I'm not sure if I turned that into one item or kept it as two ideas, basically about how we're getting our message out and how we're doing in dealing with the public. And I ran those past board leadership and didn't get any negative feedback. So I will get something out that shows us the way forward on that. Basically, I'm going to get something out and ask that you get it back to me sometime within a week or maybe two. You know, the longer you give people, the more apt they are to forget it or whatever. So within a week or two to get back to me, and that'll give us plenty of time to put the information together into a form that will be presented to the board as a document, which the board will discuss and vote on as self-evaluation for the year. Questions, comments, quibbles, criticisms?
We're gonna do some
Okay.
evaluating.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay, so now, as I was beginning to say about this agenda item, discussing the letter regarding maintenance, just had a brief aside with Sue and Mr. Wilson, and with the board's consent, we'd like to just table that item. It is, again, it's not an urgent matter, and we will likely bring it before you next month in a little more depth. So hearing no objection, we'll consider that one tabled but not indefinitely, so we'll table it until our next monthly meeting. Okay, I have agenda item that requires me to do a lot of reading next. So we've drafted a letter addressing the City Council and the Board of Finance related to their recent misbehavior on the insurance matter that somehow continues despite the fact that our employees are already utilizing our new insurance coverage. Have they received this? No. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm reading it live.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a letter from all of us. So provided that the board approves this, we would be asking members to sign a bunch of signature lines at the bottom. So I would hope that you will listen carefully. The Board of Education wants to take a moment to clarify several erroneous comments made during the past several City Council and Board of Finance meetings in an effort to remind our community of how we arrived at the decision to go on our own for insurance. Here are the facts. The mayor issued a joint resolution memo to the Board of Education in June of 2024 stating that the board and city were going to part ways for insurance, and we obliged. The resolution stated that, quote, "The Board of Education will not make any payments to the Internal Service Fund for Board of Education employees during the transition period from July 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024. The Board of Education will not pay into the General Fund Reserve Account board employee premium cost shares for fiscal year 25 as they are collected as requested by the city. The Board of Education works very closely with our attorneys to ensure that all procedures are followed from a legal perspective, which we have done and continue to do. For the City Council members and Board of Finance members to not be aware of a memo that was issued by our mayor seems highly unlikely. As an aside, the memo was issued by the mayor based on a resolution that was in fact voted on by these boards, so it's especially egregious, just a little toned down in the letter itself. Yet their comments appear that they're not aware based on the fact that they continually ask the question as to the why and how the Board of Education has obtained their insurance for its members, many of whom also happen to be residents of this wonderful city. We have reviewed the charter provisions cited by the city attorney in consultation with legal counsel and found various ambiguities and inconsistencies in these charter provisions pertaining to the applicability of the purchasing and bidding requirements to the Board of Education. For example, section 16-3, this is of the charter, indicates that a purchasing agent must establish and enforce standard specifications for all supplies, materials, and equipment required by the city government except as to the Board of Education. Similarly, section 16-4 discusses the competitive bidding process for services in excess of $10,000 and in some places appears to place preconditions on the board's ability to act independently in violation of Connecticut General Statutes, section 10-222. This is a sentence and a half, which provides that a Board of Education has autonomy over how to expend funds that have been appropriated to it, and in other places appears to exempt the Board of Education from such conditions. In either case, the facts are that the Board of Education did go out to bid for our insurance. Our new broker, Brown & Brown, went out to bid on the board's behalf, and in accordance with the board's policy on bidding procedures, and in fact received 4 bids from 4 different highly reputable insurance carriers, which is common bidding practice. There should be a comma in there. One moment. Of course. Okay. Oh, that is okay. We take our role very seriously in terms of not only providing the best education for our students, but also in terms of being fiscally responsible with the money that we are allocated from the city. For anyone on the City Council or Board of Finance to suggest any fraudulent activity is beyond ridiculous and quite frankly hurtful. To date, the city has requested 4 Freedom of Information Act requests from the Board of Education in regard to obtaining insurance, and each and every time the board has met its obligation and provided the city with all of the information they requested that we maintain in our possession. For the city's attorney to state otherwise is simply not true and very misleading to our community. That's being generous. That part's not in the letter. The time and energy spent on these requests actually prohibits our team from doing the important work, which should be centered around our students. The fact that the city chooses to continually waste time and money on this issue is ridiculous and is counterproductive to becoming unified as we should be. In fact, their requests and negative comments are creating a toxicity despite the board's wishes to work collaboratively. We trust that this clears up any confusion that our community members may have had if they had listened into the City Council Board of Finance meetings. In closing, we would like to move forward and not have a back and forth with the mayor, council, or Board of Finance on these issues, as the answers have been given in June and throughout several FOI requests, and again in this correspondence. I hope that Mike was listening carefully so that he doesn't have to busy himself by actually reading it when he receives it, since he's otherwise busy harassing us with FOIA requests. I would just additionally add, and that's the letter, but I would just additionally add for everyone's consumption that all of these people are more than welcome to both attend our meetings and, if the mayor so chooses, to join us at the table, either herself or to dispatch a designee, who could be of any one of her choosing, and we'd gladly receive them at the table just as we would the mayor. Of course, they're also more than welcome to say, call me on the telephone, or write us an email, or any other way that they want to ask us for things instead of generating incessant, frankly, FOIA requests for no reason, looking for fraud, which they did use as the term, that doesn't exist. So this letter is nicer than I would care to be. I have exceptional disdain for this poor behavior. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be this way. I don't have disdain for the members of the council and the members of the Board of Finance, but the behavior that they're exhibiting toward us is intolerable. It's both annoying and damaging to the city. We're spending lots of time and money on legal bills, our administrators are spending time pulling all these records together. I'm sure it's super fun to get FOIA requests for things that are already publicly available, that have already been read into the public record, and that, again, could be resolved by a simple telephone call. And I learned today, and this really infuriates me. I learned today that the city is not processing our electronic funds transfer requests as our money passes through their books, which is deliberate sabotage. And I'm no legal expert, but so I would stop short of calling it a potential crime, but it is certainly malfeasant at best. It's mismanagement of the taxpayer dollars in a way that we would never even consider. So I don't really know where else to go other than to send them some sort of correspondence, frankly, just asking them to stop in a much nicer way than I would care to be. So with that, I would pass it out to anybody who has something to add.
Is anyone opposed to signing the letter before we answer
That
questions?
was my question. Each one of us would sign the letter.
Yeah, I have 10 lines, I think. We're not, yeah, so just read it for the 10 of us. John, do you have something?
I'm not sure why this just can't go out from board leadership like other things have. I'm not comfortable signing anything I haven't read. Having it read to me is very different from having a chance to read it. And it could have been sent out with the packet if it's that important. So why wasn't
We
it
just
sent
got
out
it
with the
back
packet?
from we had worked with our attorneys in drafting it, obviously, and just got it back.
But why wasn't it sent out in the packet?
Because we received it after the packet was put together. I mean, would you like to read it, John? I'll pass it down the table to you.
Or we
I'd
can
like to have a
change it,
chance to really read it, not just sitting around this table.
then we can change it and just have it come from
And I'd be
four of
happy
us
to send it
on
without
behalf of
anybody's
the board.
signature. I don't really care that much.
I like your use of the word erroneous. One of my favorite words. I like that you used it in the first sentence.
I
So
wasn't
we
the
can
first
do
drafter, so.
So we could do that,
Or just the co-chairs?
or that.
'Cause that's the usual.
Mhm. The reason that it was different this time is because we were, I don't wanna use the word attacked, but attacked as a group, as a board. Generally, we respond on behalf of the board, but we're giving you the opportunity to add your names. If you're not comfortable with that, we can change it and just put it from Ed 9, as we normally do. That was the only difference.
Did the attorney suggest that we all sign?
I
They
don't
were
think,
ambivalent to
yeah,
it.
I don't think she cared one way or another, as long as it was, came from Ed 9. So,
I'll do whatever the majority's doing.
Okay, all right, who wants to sign their name on it and who just wants to do it? Straw poll, who wants to sign it? Raise your hand. Okay, who doesn't want to sign it? 2,
John,
okay.
I know Gary should say no, I think he'll shut,
Uh,
Marissa's gonna send it after the meeting.
If
have him
if
do
the
it
group is tied,
electronically.
then
They'll
Sue
do
and I can just
mention
send it on the board's behalf. We would ask your vote then instead, so I would hear a motion to authorize the board leadership to send this letter on behalf of the Board of Education
So
to
moved.
the city.
Second.
Okay, so that'll be Mr. Fisco and Mr. Knight. Bill was a little faster than the draw. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we will send that on your behalf.
More consistent with prior practice.
Again, but just the reason it changed was because we were
absolutely.
attacked as a board. You individually, so.
Mike likes to talk about me by name, so I'm totally fine sending it for myself, frankly.
I just have one question that if so of those past FOIA requests, one of the requests was for information that they readily had access to.
Yeah, almost all of it.
Is online, is available, or it's in their system.
About the only thing they didn't already have was my text messages, not that I had any to include, but.
I'm being more direct to the financial statements that they were asking for. They have access to the system we use. So there's really no reason to go through attorneys and create additional expense to request information that they have direct access to at City Hall.
Correct. The city's administration is choosing to spend its time and money harassing the Board of Education's employees instead of running the city. That's what's happening.
I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and if you do this in court enough times, they ban you from making filings. Unfortunately, we cannot do that with regard to FOIA requests. But I just want to point that out. You know, the more harassing requests you send, the less seriously I take you, certainly. And again, city remains welcome at our table. The mayor is an ex officio member of this board and has every right to attend and speak at our meetings. She chooses not to, and she chooses not to appoint a designee. And that's, I suppose, her bad choice to make. But our meetings remain open to them. She could even designate Mike Magistrale, and I would probably be fine with that.
Probably.
Well, for the 2.5 years that I've been here,
She's never,
not once has there been a city representative.
no, in my 7 years on this board, the mayor has attended, I believe, one Board of Education meeting, and it was related to the bonding for the high school project that she didn't support. But, okay, we still have business to transact. So we have a possible executive session regarding a discussion concerning an attorney-client privileged communication related to the board's legal role in employee separation and release agreements. I would hear a motion to enter that executive session inviting in the superintendent, and that would be it. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are in executive session at 7:24. Are back in open session at 7:47. Agenda item G8 requires no action at this time by the board. So we just have items for the upcoming agenda. Hopefully it's not too crazy, but we may have some policies. If policy's gonna meet, we'll have the monthly financials, we'll have, let's see, what else did we cover that we may need to recover? Oh yeah, we'll have a possible item regarding maintenance and a letter and all of that good stuff. That's all I can think. Oh, and we may add a little discussion if needed after facilities talks about it to just go over the move and what, if anything, can be done by the board or what's happening, and so just give folks an opportunity maybe to ask some questions. So we stick that on the possible list as well.
Also, there, I believe, has to be discussion unless you guys have already talked about it and are deciding. The colors and the names, mascot names for the middle school, because of the new T in the middle school. There was a discussion in the building committee, I think, about changing the colors, cause the Vikings are blue, but the T on the floor is maroon. I don't know if it matters. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but it came up
Just
from
more
the-
for you, Dean.
Did you hear about that?
No.
There's a T there.
I know, but it's maroon.
It is.
And their colors are blue and white,
Yeah.
so they,
That's
it's
okay.
something.
It's the complex. It's the complex. It's not the middle school anymore. You're right, man.
I'll be happy to say our T is maroon and we're green and purple. And
Right, but you
we're
have
all
a big
part of
T in the
Torrington,
middle.
Which is
Yeah, the
maroon.
T
Right.
should be the T.
Right,
It should be
okay,
the T,
alright, so we maybe don't have to do it.
We discussed and voted as a board.
especially it's already in the floor.
Torrington, all schools are Torrington. So the T is there because it's Torrington.
Yeah,
Did this come up at building committee? Oh, we're off topic, I think we should be, yeah.
Let's
no,
add it for a discussion topic, and then maybe we'll be able to
Yeah.
skip it because it's not mission critical.
It didn't, alright,
Okay, anyone else
it
has
was
anything
brought to
they
my
want
attention, I guess.
stuck on the agenda? Okay, comments for the good of the order, I'll start at the far end with you, Bill.
Nothing.
Nothing. Kristen.
Well, this is super cute.
I know.
It's adorable. I'm actually gonna try and go to this one because Torringford is my liaison school. But also I'm visiting here on Character Day on Halloween. So I'm excited to see that. Yeah.
Thank you all for the hard work on the test scores and everything. I know that it's a lot of work putting all that together, answering my questions. I really appreciate it.
A lot of good.
Language, information, and data, that was very well put out. Laura, good information and news, and Sue as well. That's great, there's a lot of data to put together. I like how you laid out the ELL stuff. Special ed stuff and ELL stuff, there's some good information. Thank you.
Nice to see the breakdown, great meeting, great information, thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry for the long one, but it was substantive. Thank you all for your hard work. I'll just generally ask, instead of calling on everyone, if anybody on the administrator side of the table would like to add anything. It's much more expedient that way. So we have future meetings on the 6th, we have school improvement and policy here, starting at 5:30. We have on the 13th, facilities and then budget at Midgeon, starting at 5:30. And then the 20th of November, we will be here at 5:30 for our next monthly meeting. And with that, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at whatever time it is, 7:52.